Hey you guys, we are back with another video, and today's video is going to be on the INFJ and the INFP and how compatible these two types are. So we're going to start off with what's good about these two these two personality types. So the way I like to look at it is that the INFJ is like the older sibling and the INFP is like the younger sibling in terms of maturity. The INFJ tends to want to help the INFP in regards to how they think and how they react emotionally. Basically, the INFJ is more mature in this aspect, emotional and logical, and is more aware of the surroundings and what is acceptable in social situations, which the INFP may not necessarily understand. And so this creates a sort of older and younger sibling relationship dynamic, with the INFJ often helping the INFP out in regards to running their life, or doing things, and just helping them with normal ordinary tasks. And as for the INFP, because they're the younger sibling, they can introduce a bit more spontaneity and adventure into the life of the INFJ, who is kind of been assigned this role of being the responsible caretaker, right? And so the INFJ feels like they have this responsibility to always be the one that is mature, which can often stifle their desire for fun or adventure. And this is where the INFP can help the INFJ to loosen up and be more carefree, and to enjoy life without all these responsibilities weighing them down. Both INFJs and INFPs are daydreamers and idealists at heart, so they have a lot of I'd say aspirations in terms of emotions for how the world could be, since they both are dreamers. They're both intuitive types, and so they will be able to intuitively understand what each of the two types are saying without much explanation. So it can feel very kind of like a genuine soulmate connection, because they can understand each other without the need to explain why they feel a certain way or why they perceive that things could be improved. And so this creates a very nice relationship. I wouldn't say it's yin or yang. It's more like one kind of nurtures the other, right? So one is young and brings more fun to the old soul's life, which is the INFJ, and the INFJ, who's an old soul, can impart his wisdom onto the INFP, who is younger and needs that kind of guidance. And so that's the good parts. Now we're going to move on to the negatives, which is the biggest one, I believe, between the INFJ and the INFP is, again, the difference in their maturity level. So, for example, the INFJ may be deemed as too controlling or too strict when it comes to managing the INFP's life, whereas the INFP is always looking to just have fun and go with the flow. The easiest way that I can explain this is imagine if, let's say, the INFJ and the INFP, they are in a romantic relationship, they're living in the same house. INFP does not like to do housework, right? And so they have this pile of dirty laundry, and it is stinking the place up. So what happens is that the INFP, because of the dirty laundry, it affects the overall mood of the house, right? It affects the INFJ's living space, and it basically, because of the dirty laundry, it's attracting insects, it's giving off bad smell, it's just, being in the way, it's annoying, and it is best just to get rid of it if you can, right? So what the INFJ will get very annoyed at for the INFP is their tendency to procrastinate, right? And so the INFP may have this problem where the INFP is aware that they have dirty laundry that needs to be taken care of, but they're not taking care of it. And so the INFJ is very action-oriented and driven towards helping the INFP to find a solution. And so this becomes an issue because the INFP may complain, or not really complain, but just voice that they have a certain issue to the INFJ in hopes that, the INFJ will understand me. But they may not necessarily be looking for a solution, right? But the INFJ is very solution-oriented, is very action-oriented, and so the INFJ will impart their wisdom, impart their advice to the INFP in hopes that the INFP will put it into action and actually use it to better their life. However, because the INFP is kind of lazy and has a tendency to procrastinate issues that may be running their life, instead of just dealing with them head on, they kind of bury it with dirt and be like, if I don't see this problem and if I don't perceive it as a problem, then it's not really a problem. Whereas the INFJ is like, no, this is a problem, like you need to deal with it, instead of always trying to cover it up and distracting yourself with something that's more shiny. And so this, in a relationship, like in a romantic relationship, this can become a problem because the INFP just wants to live life in a happy way without having to do the inner work of like dealing with their insecurities or like things that could be improved, right? So the INFP does not perceive themselves to be someone that needs to change, whereas the INFJ is aware that everyone has faults, and in order to become the best version of yourself, you need to be able to really look at yourself from an honest perspective, look at all your faults, and then deal with them, right? Whereas the INFP is not really willing to do this, is not really willing to delve into themselves and do this like hard analysis shadow work, because to them, I guess it's just easier for them to jump over into the next shiny thing instead of dealing with all the crap, because to them it's like, oh, this is boring, right? I'd rather do something that's fun. Whereas the INFJ takes a bit more responsibility, so this is why I mentioned that the INFJ is kind of like the older sibling in the relationship, whereas the INFP is like the younger sibling, because of this dynamic in terms of maturity, wisdom, and basically doing what is the right thing to do. And so I guess the biggest issue between INFJ and INFP would be the two feeling functions. INFJ has FE, which is at the second top of their list, and INFP has FI, which is internal feeling. So an INFP will always do the thing that they personally perceive to be the right thing to do. So their actions will be perceived as very selfish in the eyes of the INFJ, and for the INFJ, this can be kind of an issue because they're always trying to cater to the needs of other people. And if the INFP is being selfish, then it can kind of rub off on the INFJ as to they will perceive the INFP's actions to be irresponsible, and that will like piss off the INFJ because they have had to always assume the role of being the responsible person in their everyday life. And so a romantic relationship between the two, I believe there is common ground for them to work with in terms of emotions, in terms of understanding one another, in terms of daydreaming and creating a scenario in which both can live in a world that is like, I don't know, full of rainbows and unicorns and like love and all that stuff. But then in practicality, the biggest issue is that the INFP would need to be willing to grow as a person and to acknowledge their faults and to take advice from the INFJ when it is applicable. And in return, the INFJ needs to learn to be less controlling and allow the INFP to learn and to grow at their own pace, right? So the INFJ may become impatient, and if this happens, they may try to become controlling to the INFP, which will drive them away. And the INFP may be a little bit too carefree and adventurous, and as a result, they may neglect certain responsibilities and priorities that would help them to grow as a person in their life. And so as long as the two are willing to acknowledge these faults in one another, the INFJ with the need to control and impatience, and the INFP with the need to kind of be mature and take responsibility for the life, if both of them are aware that these are their faults and they work on them and are willing to grow with one another through this process, then I believe the INFJ and INFP can be a very good pairing. But in most cases, I think a platonic relationship where the both of them are friends, but there's nothing romantic involved, that is the most optimal compatibility in terms of INFJ and INFP. So yeah, that is how I feel about the two types. They get along very well, despite all the faults that I mentioned. And so in a friendship, which I've seen, the friendship aspect is very, very compatible because most of the issues that plague the INFJ and INFP do not really come up, right? So in a friendship, it's mostly just about sharing good times and good memories. You don't really have to deal with the shadow or like the insecurities or the problems of the other type. And so, yeah, that's my take on the INFJ and INFP. I hope you found this video useful. Feel free to comment below as well if you'd like me to take a look at any of the other relationship types, and I'll make sure to do so. Hope you found this video useful. Have a wonderful day, and peace out. make sure to get that vitamin D while the sun is out, and I'll see you next video.